Are you planning to move abroad, but you're not sure if you'll have time to do everything you need to do before your departure date? Or maybe you're not even sure exactly what you need to do in the first place. My name's Rose, and I moved from the US to Italy 5 years ago, but I only had 2 months to plan and organize everything. I was worried I wouldn't get everything done, but I managed to get almost everything taken care of before leaving the country. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 of the most critical things that you need to do before you move abroad. And the last one is something that a lot of people don't think about, and I didn't think about until I had already left the country. Let's get started. Number 1 is renew everything. So that means credit cards, your driver's license if you have one, your passport especially. Some countries won't let you travel unless you have at least 6 months remaining before your passport expiration date. You want to do this probably way in advance before you even do your visa. Make sure that it has at least 2 or 3 years left on it. In your new country, your passport will also be your main form of ID until you get your local ID figured out. And if you wait to renew it in your new country, you have to do it through a US consulate or an embassy, and it can take a lot longer than if you just get it done before you leave the country. And as far as driver's licenses, some countries will allow you to exchange your driver's license for their local license, which is great. In that case, you will need a current driver's license to exchange it. So if it's close to expiration, you may not be able to exchange your license in time. Everything bureaucratic will take a lot longer than you think in your new country. I didn't even plan to drive here in Italy, so I didn't think about my driver's license, but I didn't know that I couldn't even drive if I had wanted to without an international driving permit. So if you plan to drive right away in your new country, before you leave the US, go to the AAA and get your IDP. And for credit cards and debit cards, same thing. You may need to use them. Your bank or credit card company may not be quick to send you a new card in your new country. And just a tip, some banks and financial institutions may not allow customers to have international addresses. So it can be an issue of trying to get your new card once it expires. If you plan to keep your US banking and credit cards like I did, you will want to have a US address. Number 2 is get a virtual address or some type of mail forwarding. So if you don't have a friend or family member who's willing to take your mail for however long, but another option if you don't have that is to get a virtual mailbox. So a virtual mailbox service will provide a physical address for you to receive mail. So they'll take your mail for you and scan it and send you an email with all copies of the documents you receive. The virtual addresses can be used as a mailing address for your bank and your financial institution. They can't be used for signing up for a new credit card because they can tell, I think, that it's not an actual address. Part of renewing everything is also apply for all the credit cards that you want. Most countries, I think, do not do credit cards like the US does. So if you want to apply for new credit cards or extend your credit, do all of that before you leave the country. It won't be as easy when you don't live in the US anymore. The next one is take care of your medical record, especially if you have a chronic illness or take regular medications. You want to make sure to not only visit your doctors one last time before you go, but make sure to download or get a copy of your medical records so that you have them to give to your new doctors and set everything up in your new country. Any procedures that you've been holding off on. I know a lot of us get nervous about medical things. If there's something you really know that you need to get done, just go and do it. Trust me, you'll have a lot more anxiety trying to figure out how the medical system works in your new country, how to get a doctor, how to get prescriptions, especially if you are doing all of that in a new language. It can be really overwhelming and you'll probably end up putting it off even more. So get everything done that you can. If you have any prescriptions that you regularly take, try to get more than you usually, maybe a 3-month supply or a 6-month supply. I would try to get it as much as possible, especially if you're not sure if it's available or if it will take a while to get it in your new country. The next one is hopefully one of the first things you think about is your pets and how you will get them to your new country. One of the first things I looked up when I decided to move to Italy was how can I bring my cat? What I was surprised by was that it wasn't that expensive to bring her on the plane with me, but it does take some preparation. You have to make sure that the airline has space for the animals, that if your animal is small enough, if they're too large, they have to go under the cargo space. There are shipping services for pets that you can use if you don't feel comfortable bringing them with you. Some people have taken their pets on cruise ships, but you have to figure that out. And more than transportation, you really need to research what documentation you need to bring your pet into another country. For Italy, it was fairly easy, but the timing of everything is critical. You have to get a health certificate, a rabies shot a certain time before that, and then a microchip. There's all these timings that are super important, and it can be different for each country. So I won't go into details here about that because I will have another video on that if you're interested. This was one of the things that I was worried about, because if any of your documents are out of order or your carrier is too big to fit under the seat, then you may not be able to travel with your pet after all. Start early as possible to figure that out so that you don't miss the timing. That was definitely, I think, the most stressful part of me moving abroad. I had a scary moment where I was changing planes in Germany with my cat, and they scanned for the microchip. He was scanning and he said, she doesn't have a microchip. And I was panicking because I adopted my cat when she was already an adult and she already had a microchip. I didn't know if she had been scanned by the vet because I couldn't go into the vet with her because it was during COVID and you had to drop off your pet and then they brought them inside. So I was just going on faith that the number that I got when she was adopted, that was her microchip number. And then he said, okay, let's try one more time. And he tried, and I was sweating and I was like, what am I going to do? And then he found it. So it was really kind of scary. I asked the guy, what would have happened if she didn't have a microchip? Would she have to stay here? And he said, yeah. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know what would have happened. The moral of the story is that you need to have everything organized with your pet. My documents did get checked by both the airline and Germany when I came in through customs. Definitely likely that they'll be checked somewhere along the way. So make sure you have all your documents in order. So that's one less thing to worry about. And the last one, this is one that a lot of people don't think about, but it's pretty important, especially if you have friends and family back in the US to keep in touch with, or if you have business that you need to take care of with a US phone number. So the last one is figure out your phone situation. When I moved, I thought, well, I'll just keep my US phone number for a few months, and then eventually I'll switch over to an Italian number and just pretty much use that. But I didn't realize at the time, this was 5 years ago, but even if you are planning to never come back to the US, if you're keeping your US bank accounts and your credit cards or any other accounts that you need to deal with back home, you will need a US phone number to get two-factor authentication for logging into your account or when you make a phone call. There's so many reasons why you get texts from organizations and companies, and a lot of them will not text an international number. So I was paying for Verizon. I had a pretty good plan, but what I realized when I got there is I immediately got an Italian phone number. I didn't really need my US phone for anything except for these two-factor authorizations. I felt like I was wasting $60 a month, and I know some people pay $80 a month, $100 a month. In the US, we pay so much for our phones. It's not necessary. When you go abroad, when you move permanently or even semi-permanently, you will most likely get a local number. You will need one, of course, for making local phone calls, but also for finding housing, opening a bank account, and activating your utilities. My Italian phone number is only 12 euros a month, which is maybe $15. And I know in a lot of countries it's similar. If you don't use it a lot, you'll feel like your US phone number is kind of a waste. That's how I felt. But I didn't want to cancel this number because I've had this number for decades. Everyone I know knows this number. And if I ever do go back to the US, I might want to keep this number. So I looked into a lot of things. There are a few different options that you can use, whether you are in the US still or whether you already left. It depends on how much you will be actually using that US phone number. I've tried a couple of these options because I've done some extended visits in the US where I felt like I needed a US number. And also I keep my US bank accounts, my credit cards, so I need it for a two-factor authentication. In the next video, I'll share the different options that I've used for how to keep a US phone number and not pay the standard carrier fees that you've been paying for probably way too long. So this is actually the first video in a series on things you need to do before moving abroad. If you found this video helpful, please feel free to subscribe and you'll get notifications for the next video in the series. I hope these tips will be useful in making your transition to your new country a lot smoother. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.